Over the years, stories have been passed down about giants. Some places on the planet have never been properly excavated by archaeologists. This could be due to lack of finances or sometimes because scientists are not allowed to enter without permission from authorities. There are also stories about discoveries of giant graves, and those accounts have never been fully investigated and neither confirmed nor denied. Some websites claim that an archaeologist named Michael Tellinger dated giant footprints to be around 200 million years old. Tellinger supposedly found another giant footprint in Africa in 2012, and he was convinced that it was one of the best pieces of evidence proving that giants once roamed the earth. While Tellinger claimed to be an archaeologist, many have denounced him as a conspiracy theorist. So what is this alleged footprint? There could have been several possibilities. The footprints could have been carved out by ancient humans. As we have seen from early humans, even back then they were rather artistic, creating objects from any materials we could find. Another theory is the supposed footprint is a result of a chunk of surrounding country rock that fell into a magma chamber, that just so happens to be in the form of a human-like foot. People who take the scientific route say there are other explanations that can be proposed using rational evidence based on a scientific approach. Also, if this is a footprint, it would have belonged to an individual that was around 30 feet high. But what do you think? Does this photo show a giant footprint? South Africa isn't the only place where alleged giants have been discovered. Anthropologists, scientists and independent researchers have been discovering the remains of tall people in the mountains of Armenia for many years. Today, residents of many villages in Armenia are convinced there were entire cities of giants in the distant past. According to Ruben Mataskania, an independent researcher and historian, in 1984 during excavations of a factory in northern Armenia, workers discovered graves of very tall people. It's said the skeletons were 4 meters in height. Pavel Avestian, director of the Institute of Archaeology, stated that a huge skull and several ancient giants were discovered in Garumi, near the Black Fortress. His claims sound extraordinary, but we can neither confirm nor deny these stories. Pavel told that just the thumb of the ancient giant was thicker than the arm of a modern human being. It's possible some ancient structures in Armenia were once constructed by those giants, who were told inhabited certain cities in the country. These are of course questions that we cannot answer. As long as we cannot provide proper evidence that sheds light on these stories, the alleged tombs of ancient giants remains an unsolved mystery. The Children of Woolpit is an ancient account dating back to the 12th century, which tells of 2 children that appeared on the edge of a field in the village of Woolpit in England. The young girl and boy had green-hued skin and spoke an unknown language. The children became sick and the boy died, but the girl recovered and over the years came to learn English. She later relayed the story of their origins, saying they came from a place called St. Martin's Land, which existed in an atmosphere of permanent twilight, and where the people lived underground. While some view the story as a folktale that describes an imaginary encounter with inhabitants of another world beneath our feet or even extraterrestrial, others accept it as real. According to the account of the Green Children, a boy and his sister were found by reapers working their fields at harvest time, near some ditches that had been excavated to trap wolves at St. Mary's of the Wolf Pits. Their skin was tinged with a green hue, their clothes were made from unfamiliar materials and their speech was unintelligible to the reapers. They were taken to the village where they were eventually accepted into the home of local landowner Sir Richard Decane at Wilkes. The children would not eat any food presented to them but appeared to be starving. Eventually the villagers brought round some recently harvested beans, which the children devoured. They survived only on beans for several months until they acquired a taste for bread. The boy became sick and soon succumbed to illness and died, while the girl remained in good health and eventually lost her green-tinted skin. She learned how to speak English and was later married to a man at King's Lynn, in the neighbouring county of Norfolk. According to some accounts, she took the name Agnes Bear, and the man she married was an ambassador of Henry II, although these details have not been verified. After she learned how to speak English, she relayed the story of her origins. It was a region forever cloaked in twilight, and surrounded by a swirling river. Everyone in St. Martin's Land was green. How exactly the siblings arrived on the other side she was unable to explain. The little girl claims they were tending to her father's cattle when they discovered a cave. They entered the narrow opening, crawling deeper into the darkness. Suddenly there was a flood of light. It was then the green children tumbled headfirst into the pit. Over the centuries, many theories have been put forward to explain these strange accounts. Regarding their green colouring, one proposal is that the children were suffering from hypochromic anemia. The condition is caused by a very poor diet that affects the colouring of the red blood cells and results in the noticeably green shade of the skin. In support of this theory is the fact that the girl is described as returning to a normal colour after adopting a healthy diet. In the 1920s, a spat of accidents plagued a lonely road crossing Dartmoor in Devon. All the accidents were fatal and seemingly unexplained, as there was nothing particularly strange about this part of the road. One evening another accident occurred, but this time the driver survived. When he regained consciousness in hospital, he was visibly shaken. He explained to the police what happened. As he approached the accident-prone part of the road, he felt a pair of rough hairy hands grab the steering wheel. Not only that, the hands were so strong they wrenched it from his control. Further accidents happened and yet another survivor described the very same thing. Sometime later, a self-proclaimed psychic was driving on the road, and as she passed the area she saw a pair of disembodied hairy hands crawling up her window. Not all reported incidents occurred in moving vehicles. In one incident in 1924, a woman camping on the moor with her husband reported seeing a hairy hand attempted to gain access to her caravan during the night. She reported that the hand retreated after she made the sign of the cross. So what are these people seeing? According to local skeptics, most of the accidents were caused by people who are unfamiliar with the area, driving too fast down narrow country roads with high walled sides, resulting in them either losing control or misjudging the road and running off its edges. Another theory is that people are not just seeing hairy hands but rather the apparitions of people. In Supernatural Dartmoor by Michael Williams, there is a story told by journalist and author Rufus Endell. He claimed that while driving near Post Bridge on an unstated date, a pair of hands gripped the steering wheel and he had to fight for control. He managed to avoid a crash and the hands disappeared as inexplicably as they come. He requested that Williams not publish the story until after his death, for fear of ridicule. It's not just cars that are preyed on by hairy hands, it's also happened to pedal bikes. One story goes that two children were cycling when one of them suddenly fell to pull to the left. After quickly looking, the child noticed a pair of large hands. After witnessing them, they ran off as fast as they could. The tale has arisen again and again, and the area has become a notorious area for accidents, many of the survivors giving the story of feeling or seeing the large rough hands, covered in hair, grabbing at them and trying to drive them off the road. Strangely, some of the most skeptical people remain the locals. Scientists believe a tiny race of tiny Homo sapiens nicknamed hobbits were wiped out by modern humans. Excavations of a limestone cave on the Indonesian island of Flores uncovered a 3-foot-tall skeleton, with a skull 1/3 the size of a normal human. Researchers discovered the bones of 9 such people, the youngest of which dates back 12,000 years. They also found tools and other signs of civilization. The new study dated layers of volcanic ash and calcite directly above and below the fossils. The bones range in age from around 100,000 to 60,000 years old. Stone tools in the cave used by the hobbits are from 190,000 to 50,000 years old. On September 6, 2003, Indonesian archaeologist Wahyu Saptomo was overseeing the excavation of Sector 7. This was at Lingboa. Benjamin Torres, one of the locally hired workers, was excavating the 2x2 meter square, when all of a sudden the top of a skull began to reveal itself. 6 meters beneath the surface of the cave, Saptomo immediately joined Benjamin, and the two of them slowly and carefully removed some of the sediment from around the top of the skull. Saptomo then inspected the excavation portion of the skull. The skull was said to have definitely belonged to a hominin and most likely that of a small child. This was due to the size of its brain case. After several days, enough of the cranium and mandible had been exposed for them to realise this was no small child. Instead, all of its teeth were permanent, meaning this was a fully grown adult. The most comprehensive study of the bones of Homo florensis, a species of tiny human discovered on the Indonesian island of Flores in 2003, has found they most likely evolved from an ancestor in Africa, and not from Homo erectus as was being widely believed. The study by the Australian National University found Homo florensis, dubbed the hobbits due to their small stature, were most likely a sister species of Homo habilis, one of the earliest known species of human found in Africa 1.75 million years ago. Data from the study concluded there was no evidence for the popular theory that hobbits evolved from the much larger Homo erectus, the only other early hominid known to have lived in the region, with fossils discovered on the Indonesian mainland of Java. Study leader Dr. Debbie Argue of the ANU School of Archaeology and Anthropology said the results should help put to rest a debate that has been hotly contested ever since the hobbits were discovered. The analyses show that on the family tree, Homo florensis was likely a sister species of Homo habilis. It means these two shared a common ancestor. Professor Mike Lee of Flinders University in the South Australian Museum said the following: "We can be 99% sure that it's not related to Homo erectus, and nearly 100% chance it's not a malformed Homo sapiens." Meerut is a metropolitan city situated in the state of Uttar Pradesh in India. Meerut is one of the fastest developing cities in India. The infrastructure of Meerut is currently going through a boom with many upcoming projects consisting of lots of new buildings, shopping complexes, malls, roads, flyovers and residential apartments. It has a very unique and strange type of haunted story. This GP block, although not well known, is found to be one of the most haunted areas in the city. This block is a double-storey apartment which is deserted and without any residents. People have claimed to see the spirit of a woman sitting on the roof, and others have seen a woman wearing red clothes getting in and out of the house. It's believed the spirit is trying to lure people in. However, when they get inside, the mysterious lady is nowhere to be seen. Another strange sighting is that of 4 men sitting inside the house around a table with a single candlelight lit in the centre. They can be seen drinking alcohol. Shadow people are commonly seen here. One witness said the following: "While looking for an adventure, I decided to investigate this place with a friend. It was dusk, which made the overall atmosphere more creepy. When we arrived here, the first thing we did was an EVP to try and catch any voices. The first voice captured was that of a young lady. She didn't sound evil but kept repeating the words, 'Be careful.' After the session, we looked around the property and that's when I saw something creepy. My friend was 100 meters or so behind, and I saw what I can only describe as a black mass. I caught a glimpse of this strange thing before it slowly evaporated. I couldn't make out any features, but it was in the shape of a humanoid. To this day, I have no idea what I witnessed." People have also reported seeing men standing on the roof, but when they are questioned, they disappear into thin air. The men on the roof story has been doing the rounds for a long time. Many people have tried finding out more but do not succeed. According to a report published by The Daily, many students from a nearby school tried going inside the house but were shooed away. The report also says that a family of 6 was asked to stay on the ground floor of the building by the army. While none of the others found anything spooky for over 6 months, the mother said she saw a lady wearing a black gown and was spooked out. People normally avoid that route stretch lying in front of the house, and today only a few dare to venture inside. Old hag syndrome is a phenomenon in which you awake from sleep unable to move. You seem to be awake but your body is paralysed. One person said the following: "About a year and a half ago, I was awoken in the night by a strong warm breeze. I could not move and could not scream. It lasted for 30 seconds and was gone. I saw nothing. Last week it happened again. I was lying in bed and again I was awoken. I felt a very strong force holding me down. I could not sit up. I tried to scream for my daughter and could not get any noise to come out. I tried to hit the wall with my arms and this force would not let me go. It lasted about 30 seconds and was over. I really don't believe in ghosts and I didn't see anything at all. I am just really scared and confused." That incident is a classic example of what's become known as the old hag syndrome. The victims awake to find they cannot move even though they can see, hear, feel and smell. There is sometimes the feeling of a great weight on the chest, and the sense there is a sinister or evil presence in the room. The name of the phenomenon comes from the superstitious belief that a witch or an old hag sits on your chest, rendering you immobile. Although that explanation isn't taken very seriously nowadays, the perplexing and very often frightening nature of this phenomenon leads many to believe there's supernatural forces at work. The experience is so frightening because the victims, although paralysed, seem to have full use of their senses. In fact, it's often accompanied by strange smells, the sound of approaching footsteps, apparitions of weird shadows or glowing eyes, and the oppressive weight on the chest, making breathing difficult if not impossible. All of the body's senses are telling the victim that something real and unusual is happening to them. The spell is broken and the victims recover, often on the point of losing consciousness. Fully awake and well, they sit up, completely baffled by what just happened to them, since now the room is entirely normal. Confronted with such a bizarre and irrational experience, it's no wonder that many victims fear they've been attacked in their beds by some spirit, or perhaps even an alien visitor. The phenomenon occurs to both men and women of various ages, and seems to happen to about 15% of the population at least once in a lifetime. It can occur while the victim is sleeping during the day or night, and it is a worldwide phenomenon that has been documented since ancient times. The medical establishment is quite aware of this phenomenon. They call it sleep paralysis. So what causes it? Sleep paralysis occurs when the brain is in the transition state between deep dreaming sleep, known as REM sleep for its rapid eye movement and waking up. During REM dreaming sleep, the brain has turned off most of the body's muscles functions so we cannot act out our dreams. We are temporarily paralysed. Sometimes your brain doesn't fully switch off those dreams or the paralysis. That would explain the frozen feeling and hallucinations associated with sleep paralysis. But there are those that believe something more sinister is at play. Mary Celeste was an American merchant sailing vessel, discovered adrift and deserted in the Atlantic Ocean, off the Azores Island on December 5, 1872. The Canadian vessel De Gracia found her in a dishevelled but seaworthy condition, under partial sail and with her lifeboat missing. The last entry in her log was dated 10 days earlier. She had left New York City for Genoa on November 7th, and on discovery was still amply provisioned. Her cargo of alcohol was still intact, and the captain's and crew's personal belongings were undisturbed. None of those who had been on board were ever seen or heard of again. Mary Celeste was built in Spencer's Island, Nova Scotia, and launched under British registration as Amazon in 1861. She transferred to American ownership and registered in 1868, when she acquired her new name and therefore sailed uneventfully until her 1872 voyage. At the salvage hearings in Gibraltar following her recovery, the court's officers considered various possibilities of foul play, including mutiny by Mary Celeste's crew, piracy by the De Gracia crew or others, and conspiracy to carry out insurance or salvage fraud. No convincing evidence supported these theories, but unresolved suspicions led to a relatively low salvage award. The inconclusive nature of the hearings helped to foster continued speculation as to the nature of the mystery, and the story has repeatedly been complicated by false detail and fantasy. Hypotheses that have been advanced include the effects on the crew of alcohol fumes rising from the cargo, seaquakes, waterspouts, attacks by giant squid and paranormal intervention. After the Gibraltar hearings, Mary Celeste continued in service under new owners. In 1885, her captain deliberately wrecked her off the coast of Haiti, as part of an attempted insurance fraud. The story of her 1872 abandonment has been recounted and dramatised many times, in documentaries, novels, plays and films, and the name of the ship has become a byword for unexplained desertion. According to the last entry, the ship was in sight of Santa Maria on November the 25th. 10 days later, it was found 400 miles east of that point. In estimation, the likeliest scenario is that the crew jumped ship on the last recorded day, and the ship sailed itself the rest of the day. After carefully examining the available records, oceanographer Phil Richardson came to the conclusion that the captain had a faulty chronometer that suggested the ship was around 120 miles west of where it actually was. So lost on a turbulent ocean, the captain likely ordered the crew to abandon ship and head for the nearby island. However, this is just a theory. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.